Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Now, before you take a great gasp and say, I am never going to make this. In the section where I show you how to do this pattern, get a hook and get some yarn. I use double knitting yarn, and double knitting is a weight 3 in the USA, and give this a try. It's a beautiful pattern. It's like a large shell pattern. It's absolutely beautiful. You can find this on Google, you can find it on Pinterest, you can find it lots and lots of places. And I've always put off doing it because I thought it's a little bit beyond me and I wouldn't be able to do it. So one day I just thought, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to give it a try. And honestly, it is quite easy. I'm not going to say it's super easy, but it is really a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. The pattern starts from here and it finishes midway here. This is the pattern and this is the repeat you keep doing. I'll explain that in the video. Now, I didn't put a fringe on my scarf. You can let me know in the comments, do you think I should put a fringe on it or leave it as it is? It is absolutely beautiful. Now, when you finish it, you'll finish it on row 8 so that it looks like you've got these big fans up here. This is like an elongated fan. It's also like further down, it looks like a shell. It looks like a shell as well. It is beautiful in variegated yarn. Be stunning in variegated reds and oranges and yellows, but I didn't have any yarn like that. I really wanted to do this in a variegated yarn that went from dark red to light orange and yellow and then back to dark red. Now, I got this yarn. I'll show you the ball of yarn. I didn't keep the label for it. Now, that's the yarn I used, and I got that in Home Bargains. I think it was $6.99 for a 300-gram ball, and I used about 200 grams for this. Now, it does take a little bit extra yarn, so make sure if you're making a blanket or a scarf, this scarf is 62 inches long. It's 62 inches long. And I think I've done 17 repetitions of the pattern. I've done 17 sections of the pattern and I got 62 inches. I love it. I absolutely love it. But get a hook, get some yarn and work along with the video and give this a try. The stitch count is 11 and then you'll add an extra 2 stitches to it. I'm going to do a small sample. So I'm only going to do 22 stitches. So you can do as many sets of 11 as you want, then add an extra 2 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now pull your stitches up a little bit. And like I said, if you can't do your chain slack, use a larger hook to do your chain. So I'll do another 11. 1, 2. I'm just pulling the stitches each time I do one. So I've done 3 sets of 11 and I'm going to add an extra 2 stitches. 1, 2. So we're going to go into the 4th stitch. So count 1, 2, 3 and 4. We're going to be using UK treble crochets. These are USA double crochets if you're in the USA or another country. Your chain that you're going to skip is going to become a stitch. So into the 4th stitch. So you've got 2 stitches. That chain becomes a stitch and you've got 1 here. We need 5 along, so that chain is 1, that's 2. 1 into the next stitch is 3. 1 into the next stitch is 4. And 1 into the next one is 5. Now we're going to do a V-stitch, and the V-stitch is 1 treble or double crochet, whatever country you're in, 2 chain and 1 more stitch. So we're going to chain 1, skip one stitch and do the V-stitch in the next one. So that's one stitch. So one stitch, two chain, chain two, and go into the same stitch and do your V-stitch. You're going to chain one, skip one. We're going to work 8 stitches along. So skip one, that's one into the next one, two, one into the next one, that's 3, move along, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one more is 8. So in between each section, when you're moving, you'll do a chain one. So chain one, we're going to skip one and do that V-stitch again. So one stitch, whatever country you're in, it's either a double or a treble crochet. Chain two and finish your V-stitch in that same stitch. Chain one, skip one and work 8 along. So that's one into the next stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Chain one, skip one and do the V-stitch in the next stitch. So chain one, skip one and do your V-stitch. Chain two in the middle of your V-stitch into the same stitch and make that V-stitch. Now we're going to skip one and work 5 along because we're at the end. So it doesn't matter how long you do your chain. At the end, the beginning and the end is the same. It's symmetrical. So we'll do a chain one. We're going to skip one stitch and work 5 along. If you don't have 5, use your tail to add a few extra chains on. If you've got too many, just pick them out. So I'm going to skip one and work 5 along. One into the next one. It's 2. One into the next one is 3. One into the next one is 4. And one into the last stitch is 5. Now we're only going to chain 2 for each row. Just 1, pull your stitch up a little bit, and 2. It keeps your edge nice and straight. So we're going to do row 2. So turn. Now we're going to do what's called a front post stitch. You're going to put your yarn over your hook and you're going to go around the post. This is what we're going to be. If I tell you to skip a post, I'll be telling you to skip that. That is the post. So it's the long stitch, the long section running down your stitch, not the top ones, the post there. So a front post is, you're going to put the stitch to the front of your hook. So put your yarn over and go through the space between that stitch and that stitch. Go through the space and bring your hook around the other side, round the back. So that post of that stitch is on the front of your hook. So you can see it on the front. So yarn over and pull it through. yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over and through 2 loops. So we're going to do 3 of the front post. So that's 1 around the next one, that's 2, and 1 around the next one, that's 3. You're going to chain 1 and skip 2 posts. So you'll skip that post and that post, and we're going to work into the V-stitch. We're going to put 10 treble crochets. Now make sure you count them and make sure you put 10 in. That's a double crochet if you're in the USA. It's a treble crochet in the UK. So in there you're going to put 10 stitches. So yarn over, skip that and go into the V-stitch and put 10 stitches in. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Chain 1. You're going to skip 2 posts. So skip that post, skip the V-stitch post, and skip that first post. Then we're going to work 6 along, 6 front posts. Now the noise you can hear in the background, it's muttly. There's children outside playing and he keeps growling. So skip that stitch there and go around this one. So we need to go around 6. So that's 1. Go around the next one. That's 2. Work around the next one. That's 3. Work around the next one. 4, 5, and 6. Chain 1, and you're going in to the V-stitch. Skip that post and skip that one. Going into the V-stitch with 10 stitches. Make that fan of 10 stitches. So yarn over, make sure you do 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Going to chain 1. So chain 1. So skip the next post and we're going to go around the next 6. So that's 1 and 2. Now you can grab your yarn and a hook and try this along at the same time as me. So we've done 1 and 2. We're going around the next post. That's 3. Going around the next one. It's 4. Around the next one. 5. And 6. Now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to do our last fan into the V-stitch. Put 10 stitches. Build your fan of 10. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Chain 1. You're going to skip one post and you're going to work 3 across. So skip that one and we're going to work 3 across. That's 1. Around the next one is 2. And around the next one is 3. We're going to put a treble crochet or a double crochet if you're in the USA in the top of this chain. Now, I'll explain something in a moment. And then chain 2, 1, 2 and turn. Now your stitch on the end is not part of the pattern. And that stitch on the end there, you won't count that at all. These are just your edge. That's just the edge. These ones are not part of the pattern. The pattern starts from the second stitch in. So this is what you have. Don't worry that it looks like this. Don't worry. The pattern will come true. So we're going on to row 3. So we've done our chain 2 and we're going to turn. Now we're going to do a back loop. We're going to work from the back of your work. We're going to work the first 2 stitches. The first 2 posts. So yarn over. We're going to go from the back. Put your hook through from the back to the front and scoop around that post so it's on the back here. Put your yarn over and pull your yarn through and up. So that's a back post treble crochet in the UK. In the USA it's a back post double crochet. So yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over and through your 2 loops, and do that again. So we're doing the second stitch, yarn over, and from the back, we're working from the back, pull your stitch up. So we're leaving that post, skip that last stitch, skip that last post. You're going to chain 1. Now around your fan, you're going to put 1 stitch into each of these 10 stitches. That's a UK treble crochet or a USA double. So 1 into each stitch. So that's 1. You should still have 10 stitches on this fan. 1. 1 into the next one is 2. 3. 4. Work your way around. 5. 6. Around that one, that's 7. 8. 9. And into that last one is 10. Chain 1 and we'll move to the next section. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to reduce at each end. So we're going to skip the first post and skip the last post and just work these 4 from the back. So skip the next post, yarn over and go around the next one. So that's 1 done. Around the next one from the back. That's 2. Around the next one, 3, and around the next one, that is 4. Chain 1, and we're going to put 1 stitch in each of these 10. So into my first stitch, that's 1, right around this fan, 2, should have 10 stitches, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that last one, 10. Chain 1 and move to the next section. And again, we're going to skip the first post, work 4 and skip the last post. So you'll get the point that we're skipping the first and last of these posts as we go up. So yarn over and around that post. So skip that first one and work along 4. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once you've done one set of the pattern for this, you'll be able to follow the pattern row for row just by looking at it. You can follow it easily enough. So chain 1 and move to the next section. You'll always chain 1 when you move to a section and chain 1 when you move to the next one. So we're going around this fan. Skip that last post there in that row. So we're going to work around the fan, put 1 UK treble, that's a USA double, into each stitch in the fan. And you should still have 10 stitches around your fan. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 1 into that last stitch, 10. Chain 1 and move to your last section. Skip the first post and we're going to work around the last 2. Skip that one and work around the next one and that last post. Now that last chain of 2 is not part of the pattern, so you won't ever work these last stitches. You'll only just be putting a treble crochet in or chaining 2 on the end. So in the top of that chain of 2, put 1 treble crochet. This keeps your edge straight. Chain 2 and turn. So as you can see, your center sections are being reduced and your fan is being built, or your shell, it's being built. So we're going to skip this last post. We're going to work around that 1 post. Work around that 1 post. Chain 1 and move to the next section. Skip that post. Now, around this fan, we're going to put a front post treble crochet. So that stitch there we did a front post. So when the pattern calls for front posts, you only do them on the front, and back post is only done on the back. So this time we've got our 10 normal stitches and we're going to put a front post stitch around every single one of them. We've done our chain 1. So around this section, around the post of the first stitch. So you should have 10 front post stitches around this fan. And this is what gives it that 3D effect. So around every stitch in the fan and round 3. And you should have 10 around. And around that last one. And that's what you have. And that's what gives it that 3D effect. So we're going to chain 1 and move to the next section. Now we're going to skip the first post and skip the last, but we're only going to work these 2. So skip your first post and around a front post with that one, that's 1, and around that one is 2. Chain 1 and we're going to move to the next section. That's the fan again. We're going to put 1 into every stitch, 1 front post treble or double, whatever country you're in, around each stitch in this fan. So around that post, it's 1, around that one, 2, around the post, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that one's 9, and 10. Chain 1, we'll move to the next section. We're going to skip the first and the last stitch and just work those 2. So skip the first post and work the 2 in the middle. Chain 1, going to skip that last post and put 1 front post treble around each stitch in the fan. 1 around the next one, around all 10 stitches. So on the fan you should have 10 front post stitches around this fan or shell, whatever you want to call it. Now chain 1, because we're going to move to this last section. Skip the first one and work around that next post. Work around the next post. And you're going to put 1 treble crochet in that chain of 2. This is just your edge stitch. Just push it through the top of that chain of 2, through the stitch. Then chain 2, 1, 2, and we'll turn. What we're going to do now is, in this first stitch, we're going to build a V-stitch in this top of this post. A small V-stitch, so it's 1 stitch, 1 chain, and 1 more stitch in the same stitch. So you've got a small V-stitch there. Now we're going to skip the first post in this fan. We'll skip the first post and the last post, and we're only going to work these 8 stitches in the middle. So skip the first post of the next section and go around from the back. That's stitch 1. We're going to do 8. Go around that one. That's 2. So work from the back, and the stitch will be on the back of your hook. So we've got 1, 2, 3. We're doing 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and you're going to skip the last post. So in that fan you've skipped the first post and you've skipped the last post. Chain 1 and move to the next section. Now the next section only has 2 stitches. We're going to build the V-stitch in the middle here. So 1 stitch, 2 chain, 1, 2, and 1 stitch to make the V-stitch. Now the one at the end is just a small V-stitch. We're only going to put 5 stitches in there. These ones are going to get 10. We're going to build more fans. Chain 1 and move to the next section. You're going to skip the first post into the next one. We're going to work around 8. So that's 1. Around the next one is 2. Around the next one in the fan is 3. Around the next one, 4. Around the next one, 5. Around the next one, 6. 7. And 8. So we've done 8. We're going to skip the last post, chain 1 and move to the next section, and we're going to build our V-stitch in between these 2 stitches. So it's 1 stitch, 2 chain and 1 stitch. Chain 1, we'll move to the next section. We've got our large fan. We're going to skip the first post in the next section, so skip that one and work around the next one from the back, a back post stitch around the next 8 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Chain 1 and move to that last section. Now here you've got your end stitch in that one. We're going to put a small V-stitch in. So that's 1 stitch, chain 1 and 1 more stitch in to that same stitch and make a small V-stitch. Now you're going to do a treble crochet in that end chain. That just keeps your edge nice and straight. Chain 2. So you'll never work those very last stitches. And this is what you have. Now when I did this pattern, and when I made mistakes, it always seemed to turn out that I didn't do a V-stitch inside here. I put my next fan in there, which is wrong. So anytime you've made a mistake and you think it's not working out, check that you've got a V-stitch in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build your fans again in these V-stitches, and these fans will be reduced. So I've got 3 fans in here. We're going to be reducing those ones and rebuilding a new one in between, and we'll be doing little half ones up the side. And you can already see that beautiful pattern starting to come through. So we're going on to row 6. Now we've done a chain of 2, just ignore that first stitch. Now in this small V-stitch we're going to put 5 treble crochets. That's double crochets if you're in the USA. We're on the edge and you only got a half a pattern on the edge. So in there you're going to put 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Chain 1 and move to the next section. Now we're doing front posts because we're on the front of our work. We're going to skip the first post and skip the last one. We're going to work into these 6. So this one is being reduced. So skip your first post and work around the second one. So that's 1. Work around the next one, that's 2. Work around the next one, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Chain 1 and move to this section. You're going to put your fan of 10 in here. It's in the middle, so you're going to put 10. You only put 5 when you're at the edge. Now you can see that we're reducing these posts on this shell. So into here you're going to put 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and chain 1. Now we're going to work around this one. We're going to skip the first one and skip that one and just work these 6. So skip that first post and work around the next 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 and 6. Chain 1. Now we're at our V-stitch. We're going to put 10 stitches in. Chain 1, move to the next section. So we're going to skip that first post and skip the last one and work these 6. So in this section, skip the first one, skip that and work around the next one. It's 1, we're going to do 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Chain 1 and move to this last section. Now in that V-stitch, we're going to put 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to work our last stitch, a treble crochet in that chain of 2. That's a double crochet if you're in the USA, in the top of that chain of 2. Now chain 2 and turn. So we've now done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. So we're going to go on to row 7 and we're at the back of our work again. So into these 5 stitches, you're going to put 1 stitch in the top of this little fan. We're going to build up our fan. So that's 1 in the top, 1, 2, 3, work around that little fan, 4, and 5. And check you've got 5. Don't count that first one. That one there is the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chain 1. Move to the next section. We're going to reduce this section, so we're going to skip the first post in this section. So we're going to go around from the back. We should have 4. That row there was 6, so this row will be 4. We're skipping the first and the last stitches. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. You're going to skip that last post in that section. Skip that one. Chain 1 and move to your next span and put 1 into the top of each stitch. 1 UK treble, that's a USA double, into the top of each stitch. And that noise you can hear in the background is my washing machine. So that one there is number 9, and into that last stitch, that's number 10. Chain 1 and move to the next section. You're going to skip the first post and the last post, and we've got 4 in between. We're going to work around the post. So skip the first post of that section and work around 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Chain 1. So you're skipping that last one, don't do that. So into this fan, into the top of the fan, you're going to put 1 stitch each. Now this doesn't get the post stitches yet. So 1 into the top of each stitch in your fan. You should have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Catch that whole stitch. 10. Chain 1 and move to the next section. Skip the first post of the next section and work around the middle 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Chain 1, so we're skipping that last post and move to these 5. You're going to put 1 stitch into the top of each stitch in this little half section. So you should have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And we're going to do our edge stitch. So in that chain of 2, put 1 treble crochet. This keeps your edge straight. Just go in through that second stitch in that little chain. Chain 2, 1 and 2, and turn. Now don't worry that it doesn't look straight. It will straighten itself out. And you may have to make it damp and pin it out at the end. So that's why you've got to make sure your chain, when you do your chain, don't do it too tight. So as you can see, a bit like the diamond pattern that I did, this one gets reduced. The ones in the middle, they're getting reduced, and these ones get built up in the middle. So we're going to do row 8, and then we're going to go right back to the beginning of doing these V bands up here. And that'll be your pattern repeat once you've got this down to 2. And that's where you can finish your blanket as well. If you're making a scarf or a blanket or your project, you'll finish it when you get to those 2 posts here. So around each of these posts, we're going to do a front post around each one. So that'll be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Chain 1 and move to the next section. Skip the first post, and we're going to work around this one and the next one. Chain 1, we're going to skip that post. Now we're going to work a front post around the 10 stitches of the fan. So we've done our chain 1, skip that post, move to the next section. 1 around every stitch. 1, 2, 3, front post around, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, make sure you've got 10 and 10. So when you first do your fan, you'll have the row where you make the fan, and then it'll be 1 into each, the top of each stitch, and then the third row of the fan you'll do the front posts, and that's what gives it that 3D effect and makes it stand out. Chain 1 and move to the next section. Skip the first post and the last post and work the stitches in between. So skip the first post and go around the next one. We're doing our post stitches around that next post. Chain 1, skip that post and work 10 front post stitches around this fan. 1 around each stitch. So that's number 10. Chain 1 and move to the next section. You're going to skip the first and the last and work these 2. So skip the first post, go around the next one and the next one. So we've reduced that section right down to 2 stitches. Chain 1, and around these 5 stitches you'll do a front post around this half fan. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And put 1 treble crochet or double crochet into that chain of 2, just to neaten up the edge. That's not part of the pattern, that's just the edge. Chain 2. So that's row 8 done. Now we're going to do I've decided what we'll do is we're going to do row 9. Now row 9 is a repeat of row 1. It's easier to add it in to the pattern. So we'll do row 9, and then what you'll do is you will repeat from row 2 to row 9, row 2 to row 9, row 2 to row 9. So we're going to do row 9. We're going to skip this last stitch. We're doing just a half a pattern. So around your next stitch at the back, we're going to work 4. So around that one, that's 1. Around the next one is 2. Around the next one, 3 and 4. Chain 1, skip that last post, skip that one, and move to these 2, move to this section, and you're going to put a V-stitch. 1 stitch, 2 chain, and 1 stitch. So 2 chain, because it's in the middle, it's not at the edge. This is going to be a big fan. Chain 1, move to the next section. So you're going to skip the first post and work around the next one. So skip the first post of the next section, and we're going to work 8 around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Back posts, because we're on the back. Now we're going to skip that stitch, chain 1, skip that one and move to the next section and put your V stitch in. 1 stitch, 2 chain and 1 stitch. Chain 1, move to the next section. Skip the first stitch. So skip that one and go around the next one. We're working from the back of our work. We'll do 8 around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And we're going to skip that stitch, chain 1, skip that last stitch and move to the next section. You're going to put a V stitch in here, chain 2 and 1 more stitch, chain 1 and move to your last section. You're going to skip the first stitch and work 3. So skip that one. I think we've got 4. We're going to work 4. So 1, this is just a half a pattern. 2, 3 and 4. Now your edge stitch, you're going to put a treble crochet in the second stitch in, chain 2 and turn, and there we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to repeat row 2. This is row 2, so your pattern repeat is from row 2 to row 9. Then you'll repeat row 2 up to row 9. So when you finish, you'll finish on row 8. So now we'll go back, just rewind the video and do row 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you'll do row 9. Then you'll go back to row 2. you're going to put your 10 stitches in, and then another 10 on the top, and then start your front and back posts to reduce those 10 stitches to 2 and put your V-stitch in. And that is how this pattern works. Just take your time with it, count along, and do it in sections. And remember, at the end you only have a half a section at each end. You're only reducing at this side and this side. So the way I did the edge of the blanket, I'm going to put what's called a half treble crochet down the sides. That's a half double crochet if you're in the USA. Now, I finished my work on row 8. I finished it when these went down, but got reduced to 2. So that's row 8. I finished it on. You can leave that edge if you're doing a blanket, or you can leave that edge if you're doing a scarf, but I'll show you what I did just to neaten down the sides. So yarn over and just into that first space, I'm going to do a half treble crochet. That's a half double crochet if you're in the USA. Now into that little stitch there, I'm going to put another one. Just evenly work down the side, one into this sort of joint. Just work evenly down. Now I've got that space there, we'll just put one in. Into this space here, just put one in, almost like one for each row. Into that gap, just whatever you do down the side, you make sure you put the same number of stitches up this side. Work your half double or half treble. Now that's a biggish stitch. I'm going to put 2 in there. Then 1 into the next space. 1 into that little gap till I get to the corner. Now at the corner, I'm going to put 2 in, 1 and 2. I'm going to do 2 chain and put 2 more in, 1 and 2. See how it looks? Now that looks okay, looks nice and straight. So you'll just work it out yourself so it's nice and straight. Now along the end, I'm going to put 1 in between each stitch. In between each stitch, I'm going to put 1 in that chain space, 1 in that V-stitch, 1 in the chain space, and then 1 in between each stitch along. Just make sure you've got the same amount of stitches along the bottom as you'll have along the top. And that's going to make the bottom straight. Now I'm just showing you this on my sample. In there. And at the corner, I'm going to treat that like a corner. Put 2 in, 2 chain, and 2 more. And you can go around this as many times as you want, especially if it's a blanket. 2 more. Now up this side, you're going to make sure you've got the same stitches at either side. So on my little sample, I've got my 2 in the corner and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, and then my 2, 9, 10, 11. I've got 11 up there. So I'm going to tag that tail in. I've got my 2 in the corner and I'm going to work up 11. So I've got the same amount of stitches. That's 1 and 2. And there's 10 and 11. So I've got the same up that side. So I'm going to treat this one as a corner. I'm going to put 2 in, 1 and 2, chain 2, I'll put 2 more in, 1 and 2, that's my corner. You've got a nice straight edge. Sorry if I was out of picture there. So we worked 11 up here, the same as the other side, and a corner. Now, I didn't count the 2 in the corner, I just counted the ones up to here. So what we're going to do along here, we're going to put 1 in between each stitch. One into that space, and 1 in between each stitch along. And you don't need to do the top. You could do it as that and then leave the top and just work the border on your sides and leave that with that nice little ribbon on it. You can just leave the top with the double crochet if you want, and if it's a blanket you can just leave it like that. So in the corner I've got 2 here, so in the corner I'm going to put, I've got 1 there, 1 more, 2 chain, and I'm going to slip stitch to that first one. Then if you want, you can chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and then in each stitch you can put a treble crochet and do a few rounds if you want in treble crochet, and that will give you a nice edge on your project. So just like in the sample video, I finished my pattern on row 8, and I've been working down the side with a half treble crochet. That's a half double crochet if you're in the USA. I'm just evenly putting the stitches down to neaten up the edge. Now I will make this damp. Once I've done this edge, it will flatten and straighten itself out. So that is how I did my scarf. Now I did, for this width, I put the border on, but the actual pattern, I used 2 sets of 11, that was 22, and I added an extra 2, that's 24. So that's 24 stitches. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 repetitions of the pattern. I went around the scarf the same way I did in that sample, and that was the same way we did it for the blanket. I just don't know whether to put some fringing on the end. I like it like this. This would make a beautiful table runner. If you did this in a variegated Christmas colours, that would make an absolutely beautiful table runner for your Christmas table. Give it a try. Get some yarn and a hook and crochet along with the video. If you crochet along with the video, you'll get the hang of how to do this. And believe me, I put off for years doing this pattern. I've seen it in my stitch books, I've seen it on YouTube, I've seen it on Google, I've seen it on Pinterest, I've seen it everywhere. And I've always put off doing it because I thought it'd be too difficult, but it's not difficult. It's not difficult. It looks difficult, but it's not. Give it a try. Get your yarn and your hook, like I said, and crochet along with the video, and you'll see how easy this is. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, help my channel grow. It's completely free to subscribe to the channel. I don't get anything off of YouTube for people subscribing. It helps the channel to be seen. The more subscribers you see, people see that you have, the more likely YouTube is to show your videos, and the more likely people will look at your channel as well. There's so much on my channel now. Please have a look. And please subscribe. Also, if you click on that bell icon, YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.